Joining us from Chicago this morning, the White House senior advisor, David Axelrod. Mr. Axelrod, the president insisted that the Afghan people have a runoff election. He convinced the Afghan President Karzai to do that after charges that the general election was a fraud. He agreed, but he refused to replace the officials who were in charge of the last one, and now the other candidate, Abdullah, has quit. I guess I would ask you first, is this going to have any impact on the timing of the president's decision on when to send those troops to Afghanistan?
Well, let me correct one thing that you said, Bob. What the president said was he wanted there to be an election that proceeded in the constitutional way. It did. In fact, many ballots were thrown out. A runoff was called. Now Mr. Abdullah has exercised his rights as a candidate to withdraw. He's made a political decision to withdraw from this contest, and that doesn't markedly change the situation.
Well, why doesn't it? I mean, the thing was a fraud. The man who was opposing him said, you've got to replace these officials who allowed this to happen. They didn't allow it to happen. The United States, I guess, went along with that. Why doesn't it change the situation?
Well, I think first of all, as I said, he made a political judgment, and I thought that his remarks today were rather moderate. He left open as to whether his supporters should participate in the process, and he's establishing himself as a leader of the opposition. But every poll that had been taken there suggested that he was likely to be defeated anyway. So we are going to deal with the government that is there. And obviously there are issues we need to discuss, such as reducing the high level of corruption there. These are issues we'll take up with President Karzai.
Is there any word, Mr. Axelrod, on when we can expect the president to make this decision on whether or not he's going to put more troops in there?
Well, Bob, I expect the president will make a decision within weeks. As you know, he's gone through a very rigorous process, because the goal here is not just to make an arithmetic judgment about the number of troops, but to make sure we have the right strategy to reach our goal. And our goal is to protect the American people from al-Qaeda. That's why we're in Afghanistan. Al-Qaeda launched on us from Afghanistan. They've been driven to the mountains of Pakistan. We don't want them to return to Afghanistan and make Afghanistan a base again. And that's what this is about. And the question is, what is the most effective strategy moving forward in the context of Pakistan, our troop strength around the world? These are the decisions the commander-in-chief has to make, and he's going through a methodical process. Met with the Joint Chiefs on Friday,
Okay.
Had a good discussion with them.
But on timing, you're saying in a matter of weeks. Let me ask you
Yes,
this, Mr. Axelrod. Last week, when casualties in Afghanistan hit a new high, President Obama went to Dover Air Force Base to take part in a ceremony honoring the return of some of those who had been killed there. Well, this morning on Fox News, Rush Limbaugh had this to say about that.
It was a photo op. It was a photo op precisely because he's having big-time trouble on this whole Afghanistan dithering situation. He found one family that would allow photos to be taken. None of the others did. And of course, when you have a sycophantic media following you around, able to promote and amplify whatever you want, then he can create the impression that he has all this great concern.
So what's your reaction to that?
My reaction is that I think that the President of the United States went to Dover to represent the American people and pay his respect to the families who had made so much of a sacrifice, to those brave service people who made the ultimate sacrifice. It was the appropriate thing to do, and I think most Americans appreciate that.
On this broadcast back in March, the White House Chief of Staff, Rahm Emanuel, said this about Rush Limbaugh. He said he is the voice, the intellectual force, and the energy behind the Republican Party. Do you believe that what he said today, and we'll have some more quotes from him here, represents what the Republican Party believes?
I don't know. That's for the Republican Party to decide. I think we've seen an interesting development over this weekend in a special election up in upstate New York in a congressional district. The Republican candidate withdrew because of the strong third-party movement behind a very right-wing conservative, and certainly Mr. Limbaugh and others were behind that. And I think it sends a clear message to moderates within that party that there's no room at the inn for them. And that's why you see Republican identification in polls at a historic low. So that may be where the energy is in the Republican Party, but it's certainly not a view on which you can build a majority party.
Well, one of the things he said today was that the president is narcissistic, immature, inexperienced, and in over his head. Reaction?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a surreal day when you're getting lectures on humility from Rush Limbaugh. And I'm not going to respond to that. The fact is that he is an entertainer. The president has to run the country. He's the commander-in-chief. He has huge responsibilities. I think he does them thoughtfully. He does them well. And they're difficult problems. We walked into a difficult situation. I think he's handling it very, very well, and most people believe that. So, you know, we'll let Mr. Limbaugh fulminate, but I think the American people are well served and believe they're well served.
I want to go to other things, but let me just ask you one final question. Last week, your man Robert Gibbs met with the folks at Fox News, declared a truce in this war you've been having with them. Was the truce broken this morning?
Look, I'm not. First of all, let me dispel something. We're not at war with anyone. We're at war only with people who represent mistruths as truth. And that's true of any network, whether it's Fox, CBS, or any other network. When errors of fact are stated or when opinion is offered as fact, we will challenge that. So, you know, and that will be our policy going forward, and the American people deserve that, and we have to do that for the sake of the administration. But we're not at war with anyone, and certainly Rush. There's no surprise that Rush Limbaugh espouses the views that he espouses. He does it every day on radio. He's marketing the outrageous, and he does very well with it. But as I said, he's an entertainer. We've got bigger responsibilities, and we're going to discharge those responsibilities.
Let me ask you a little bit about the whole swine flu thing. Has the government done enough to prepare this country for a swine flu epidemic? Is there a vaccine shortage?
Well, let me say, when the first intimations of this epidemic came to the fore in the spring, the president alerted the country and mobilized the government and the Secretary of Health and Human Services and the Secretary of Homeland Security have both done, I think, an excellent job, along with the CDC. We were told by the manufacturers of the vaccine, and we started that process very quickly. We were told by the manufacturers that they would have 40,000 doses ready by last week. We have 40 million doses. We had 28 million as of last week. It's growing every day. We expect to get 10 million this week, and we're catching up quickly. But we did represent to the public what we were told by the manufacturers, and that turned out not to be the case. I think on the whole, however, we've done a very good job, an unprecedented job in working with local authorities to deal with what is a very serious situation.
Well, what do you do to correct this kind of thing? You're told one thing, you'd have so much, and you didn't. These are the kinds of things we heard after Katrina during a previous administration.
Well,
are you
Bob,
taking steps to correct that?
Let's be clear. We're going to be caught up within a week. And I think we've been very, very aggressive on this situation. For the first time ever, people can go on a website and find out where to get the vaccine they need. They can diagnose their symptoms on the website. This has taken some pressure off of public health authorities. We've gotten Tamiflu all over the country to deal with those who contract this, particularly the young. This is a serious, serious epidemic, one of the most serious we've faced in a long time. And I think if you measure our performance against the performance of past administrations in dealing with a situation like this, we come up very well. But the important thing isn't how we measure up. The important thing is how we deal with this problem moving forward, and we will have all the vaccine we need in very short order, and people should have some confidence about that.
I have to ask you a little bit about health care. Leader Reid in the Senate said this week that he's going to bring a bill to the floor that does include the public option. At this point, it does not appear that he has the votes to get a public option passed. If he can't, will the president be willing to sign a health care reform bill that does not include the public option?
Bob, I'm not going to deal with that. I think both the House and the Senate are going to move forward on bills that likely will have a public option. The president believes a public option is valuable to create competition with the insurance within the insurance industry among this group of people who don't have insurance today. It will reduce costs, and it will be a positive thing. So he is eager for that to be in the bill. I think that some version of it will be in the bill.